The sky split open with a scream. That was the first thing I heard, not thunder, not wind, but a sound like the mountain itself was being torn in half. One moment I was perched on a narrow ledge, plucking soft down feathers from a broken nest. The next, the entire heavens blazed white. A horizontal bolt of lightning ripped across the dark canvas of the night sky, stretching from peak to peak like a spear hurled by the beast god. The flash was so bright I saw the bones of my own wings glowing through the feathers. Then came the roar. The wind slammed into me so hard my back hit the rock wall behind me. Feathers flew everywhere, scattering like frightened birds. The upper nests, rows of them clinging near the summit, swayed violently. I heard shouting. Wings beating. Someone crying out a name I couldn't catch. Lana. A familiar voice cut through the chaos. I turned just in time to see Flynn scrambling down the cliff path toward me, wings half spread, fighting the storm winds. He was soaked from the knees down. The rain had started without warning. Flynn. I pushed off the rock, stumbling toward him. The nests, the lightning hit. Before I could finish, the sky lit again. And that's when I saw it. A shadow, massive and unnatural, rose behind the smoke and lightning. Bigger than any eagle beastman. Bigger than any creature I had ever seen. Its wings unfolded like storm clouds peeling open, jagged at the edges, shimmering with lightning. It wasn't flying so much as emerging. Crawling out of the storm itself. My breath iced. My knees buckled. Something ancient inside me whispered, "Run." Flynn grabbed my shoulders. Lana, look at me." I couldn't. My eyes were locked on the monstrous shapes spiraling above the collapsing nests. One of the high platforms snapped like a twig. I watched, helpless, as two males were swept off their footing and hurled into the darkness. The wind swallowed their screams. "Flynn," I choked. They fell. He pulled me into his chest, grounding me with the familiar scent of wind-worn feathers and pine sap. "We can't help them right now. We have to get you somewhere safe. Come on." "But the others." "Lana." He tightened his grip. "If the clans see you down here during all this, they'll start asking questions we can't answer yet." A fresh crack split the air above us, thunder rolling across the cliffs like boulders tumbling. The shadow creature circled once, then shot upward, swallowed by the storm clouds. Gone, but not gone enough. "Flynn," I whispered, shaking. Something alive was in that lightning. "I know." His voice dropped to a grim rasp. "That's why we're leaving." He tugged me toward the narrow trail winding down the mountain. The ledge trembled under our steps, pebbles tumbling into the abyss below. Behind us, shouting erupted through the clan's main nests. Torches flared. Wings beat frantically. Someone yelled, "Where's the female who was on the lower ridge? Did anyone see her?" Flynn swore under his breath. "Too late. They're already thinking about you." "Why me?" "Because you were closest to the fall. And because you're you. A treasured female. A resource. A bargaining piece for ambitious males. Not tonight." Flynn guided me down the twisting ledge, shielding me from falling debris with his wings. Wind slapped against us, tearing at my feathers. "Hold on to me," he ordered. I did. My fingers wrapped in his wing feathers. He braced, wings angled, and half slid, half flew us down onto a lower, safer landing at the cliff's midpoint. I expected him to stop there. To catch his breath. To rethink. But he kept pulling me. "Flynn, where are we going?" I asked. "Down," he said shortly. "Farther. Away from the clans, away from the accusations, away from the males who will want to claim you now that the storm peak is in chaos." Lightning flared again. "But I haven't done anything." "That's exactly why they'll want you." I swallowed hard. The wind howled behind us, carrying frantic wing beats and rising voices. Someone must have angered the beast god. The nests didn't fall on their own. Find the female who saw the omen. My heart hammered in my throat. They meant me. Flynn's hand closed around mine, rough but warm. "We don't have long." We descended farther, the path narrowing until we were forced to press our backs against the cliff to squeeze through. The slope leveled at a flat stone shelf jutting over the beast plains below, a breathtaking, endless stretch of grasslands and distant forest shadows. But I was too shaken to appreciate it. Flynn stopped only when the wind gentled and the storm's distant rumbles softened. He exhaled shakily and finally turned to me fully. You saw something in the sky, Lana. I nodded, wings trembling. A shadow. Huge. Bigger than anything I've ever seen. What shape? He pressed. Wings. Enormous wings. It wasn't flying. It looked like it was coming out of the lightning. Flynn went very still. That shouldn't be possible, he murmured. I know. And no beastman grows that large. I know. And lightning doesn't bend like that unless... He stopped abruptly. His eyes flicked back toward the higher peaks. Something in his expression, fear and recognition twisted together, made my stomach drop. Flynn, what is it? He didn't answer immediately. He reached out, brushing loose feathers from my cheeks with gentle fingers before cupping my face. I need you to trust me, he whispered. I do. Good. Because what we saw tonight, it wasn't a storm. And it wasn't a beastman. And if the clans learn you witnessed it, they'll drag you into the middle of their politics. He took a shaky breath. So we're leaving Storm Peak. Tonight. My wings twitched with panic. Leave? Leave our nests? Our clan? Lana, he said softly, you saw something that shouldn't exist. And that shadow saw you. The wind carried a faint, distant roar. Not thunder. Not wind. A creature's call, deep and ancient. A shiver rushed down my spine. Flynn reached for my hand again. We'll make a new nest. Farther down. Close enough to watch the peaks, far enough to keep them from pulling you into their schemes. Will they really look for me? He hesitated. You're a valued female. One who witnessed the fall. Yes. They will. I swallowed. Then, let's go. He smiled, relieved and pained all at once. That's my brave Lana. As we started down the cliff toward the dim lights of the Beast Plains far below, I glanced back one last time at Storm Peak. The shattered nests, the lingering smoke, the lightning still clawing the sky. And high above it all, hidden in the clouds, I felt eyes watching. Not storm eyes. Not beastman eyes. Something older. Something wounded. Something waiting. And it knew my name. The sun rose pale and thin over the Beast Plains, its light spilling across the high nests like honey stretched too far. Our clans stirred with slow rustles of feathers, mutters of sleep, and the creak of woven branch platforms shifting under bodies. Flynn stayed pressed against my side the entire time. Every time I tried to slip away from the healer's nest, he tightened an arm around me, mumbling sleep-blurred things like, just 5 more breaths. I didn't get enough of you yesterday, or ever. Flynn, I whispered into his hair. I need to go wash. I smell like smoke and grief. His fingers tangled in my feathers as if I might fall without him anchoring me. Then I'll smell like whatever you smell like. I tried to nudge him. I'm serious. So am I. His voice deepened with that stubbornness I knew too well. You almost fell from the sky yesterday. I'm not letting you out of my sight. The healers nearby made soft chuffing sounds. Amused, pitying, affectionate. Female eagles were rare enough that attention like this wasn't unusual. But Flynn's devotion was something else. Ever since we were nestlings, he treated me as though my bones were made of fragile moonglass. I sighed into his shoulder. You know I can stand. My legs aren't broken. No. But your heart is bruised. He pulled away enough to look at me, brown eyes softening. And mine's cracked. That made my breath hitch. Flynn was never dramatic. If anything, he hid his feelings too well. I brushed my knuckles over his cheek. Then come with me. At least let me stretch my wings. His face lit up like a hatchling offered sweet fruit. Deal. We descended on foot rather than wing, Flynn insisted, following the narrow path spiraling down the tree trunk. Our clan's massive ironwood trees reached so high even clouds tangled in their branches. The world below felt distant, muffled, like a secret whispered for those brave enough to climb down. Flynn carried most of the woven baskets even though I kept insisting I could handle them. He didn't even pretend to listen. Flynn, I have 2 hands. Yes, he said cheerfully, and both should be resting. I'm not made of eggshells. You're my Lana. That's much more delicate. I elbowed him but he just grinned. When we reached the riverbank, a silvery ribbon cutting through the yellow plains, there were already clan members kneeling in the shallows, washing feathers, sharpening talons and weaving fresh bands for their wings. Primal life. Raw, natural grounding. Our world wasn't built on walls or metal. It was built on necessity. Warmth pooled in me as I stepped into the cool water. Flynn stayed close enough that our wings brushed. Too close, I murmured. He splashed me. Too bad. We had only been washing for a short while when rustling came from the tall grass upstream. Flynn stiffened instantly. His hand moved to the knife strapped to his thigh. But before he could draw it, 3 figures emerged, silhouettes sharp against the sun. Pull. That familiar punch of panic struck my ribs. They were alive. The 3 males stood there by the bank, feathered cloaks torn from travel, talons caked with dirt. Their eyes locked onto me. My heart didn't know whether to soar or shatter. Flynn went so still beside me his breath stopped. Kai was the first to speak. His voice had always been silken steel, steady, deep, confident. Lana. Just my name. Yet it rippled through the air like a shockwave. Nico's jaw clenched visibly. He looked ready to run to me until he saw Flynn. Quill, ever quiet, simply tilted his head, raven-black feathers catching the sunlight like obsidian. Flynn stepped in front of me. Subtle. Proactive. Furious. Stay back, he warned them. She just lost half the sky yesterday. Kai's gaze sharpened. We came as soon as we felt the quake. Nico's voice cracked slightly. We heard screams. We thought. He cut himself off, swallowing hard. My pulse hammered. Where were you? I whispered. Not accusing, broken. Quill stepped forward, his tone low but gentle. Hunted, he said simply. By the same thing that tore the sky. Flynn scoffed. Convenient excuse. Flynn, I breathed. He ignored me, feathers flaring at the edges. How do we know they didn't lead it here? Kai didn't rise to the bait. He rarely did. He was too controlled. But Nico took a step forward, fists curling. Say that again. Flynn raised his chin. He was 1 marked and these males were stronger. 2 marked, all of them, but Flynn didn't care. Losing someone only sharpened love. Kai lifted a hand, halting Nico. His eyes softened on me. Lana, are you unharmed? The tenderness nearly undid me. Flynn felt it. He moved even closer. I swallowed, forcing steadiness. I survived. Quill knelt by the bank suddenly, dipping a small cup into the river. He rose and offered it with both hands. For me. A gesture of reverence from a male that strong made the surrounding clan members murmur. Flynn lunged to intercept it, but I touched his arm. It's fine. He froze. Then reluctantly, painfully he stepped back. I took the water cup from Quill. His dark eyes flickered, not with triumph but something wounded. Something like longing. Kai exhaled, relief palpable. We feared the worst. You weren't here, Flynn bit out. Kai met his gaze evenly. No. We weren't. His voice grew quiet, almost regretful. And that is something we intend to repair. The riverbank had gone silent. Even the wind seemed to pause. Nico looked at me with storm-bright eyes. Lana, we're not asking forgiveness. Only the chance to protect you. Starting now. Quill moved to my other side, not touching, simply standing there as if offering his presence. And then Flynn, bless him, lost his temper in a way that was heartbreakingly honest. You think you can vanish and come back and she'll just fall into your wings? His voice cracked. She's mine. I've been here. Always. The pain in his words made my chest twist. Kai's expression softened, not mocking, not angry, just unbearably understanding. We know, he said. Nico nodded slowly. That's why we're asking, not claiming. Quill's voice was almost a whisper. Let us earn her. The river light shimmered around us. Flynn turned to me then, eyes wet, voice trembling. Lana, tell them to leave if you want. I'll fight all 3 if I must. My breath hitched. This devotion, this fear, this fragile courage. This was who Flynn was. Gently I took his hand. Flynn, I murmured, no one is taking me away from you. He closed his eyes, relief flooding his features. But, I continued softly, the sky is broken. And if what they say is true, we may need every wing. Flynn tensed. Nico's shoulders relaxed. Quill let out a tiny breath. Kai gave the smallest nod, respectful, restrained. And just like that, our quiet river mornings splintered into something new. Something complicated. Something dangerous. Something filled with the possibility of love and ruin both. The walk back to the mountain nests was the longest of my life. Flynn kept one hand on the small of my back, gentle, steady, constantly checking that I was still there. The other 3 males followed a few steps behind, silent but watchful, their wings slightly flared as if ready to shield me from the world. It felt like having 3 storms trailing after a breeze. And I was the breeze. As we climbed the woven ladder leading to the mid-nests, I could feel eyes on us. Females whispered behind palms. Males paused mid-task, feathers ruffling in surprise or curiosity. It wasn't every day 3 marked males returned from the dead and immediately fell into step behind a single female. Flynn noticed the stares too. "Ignore them," he muttered under his breath, voice tight. "They've always been nosy." "They're just surprised," I whispered back. "They should be grateful you survived, not gossiping." He was right, but this was the Beast Plains. Clans lived close and close quarters bred chatter. Especially when rare females were involved. When we reached my nest platform, I expected Flynn to follow me in. What I didn't expect was for the other 3 to stop at the edge of the branch. Kai bowed his head slightly. His voice came low, careful. "May we approach?" Flynn froze. My breath caught. Permission. They were asking for permission. "We won't enter without your say," Nico added. There was an unfamiliar vulnerability in his tone. "Not after everything." Quill said nothing, but his wings dipped respectfully. I hadn't realized how fast my heart was beating until Flynn leaned close and whispered, "Lana, you don't owe them anything." "I know," I whispered back. But my chest ached all the same. I turned toward the 3. "You may come in." They exhaled, quietly but visibly, as though they had been holding their breath since the river. Inside, the nest was humble. A woven floor, furs arranged in careful layers, hanging strands of herbs drying near the entrance. Flynn and I had built most of it together over the years. Every knot of vine was familiar, comforting. Flynn set down the baskets and immediately began unpacking them, despite the tension simmering in his shoulders. Kai crouched near the entry, not crossing into the center of the nest, as if observing some silent boundary. "Your nest looks the same," he said softly. I smiled faintly. "You expected it to change?" "Yes," he answered honestly, eyes flicking to the furs. "I expected someone new." My cheeks warmed. Flynn nearly snapped a basket handle in half. Nico walked along the edge of the platform, fingertips brushing the outer vines as if reacquainting himself with the place he once knew. "You kept the wind chimes," he murmured. "The ones he had crafted for me from bone and feathers a season before he vanished." "They still sing," I said quietly. Quill approached them, running a finger down one thin strand. "They're louder when you're near," he said, voice barely audible. I swallowed. Flynn saw the look on my face and immediately stepped close to me, very close, as if anchoring us back to now. He cleared his throat. "Lana needs breakfast. She didn't eat enough last night." He gave the 3 a pointed look. "I'll prepare something." "I can help," Kai offered. Flynn's feathers bristled. "She doesn't need your help." Kai lowered his gaze. "Then I help because you need it." He didn't say it manipulatively. He said it gently, so gently Flynn blinked. Kai's calm was a frustrating kind of disarming. Nico stepped forward. "And I can hunt. Bring something fresh. Something rich." Quill's soft voice came next. "And I will gather the herbs she likes." Flynn hesitated, just enough that I felt the tremor in him. I placed a hand on his arm. "It's okay." He looked at me, jaw tight, eyes stormy but softening. "Only if you want them to." The truth was, I didn't know what I wanted. But my heart wasn't built to push away care. Not when the world had nearly shattered. So I nodded. Reluctance, surrender, and protectiveness flickered across Flynn's face all at once. He exhaled. "Fine. But I'm the one staying with her." "Of course," Kai said. Nico nodded. Quill bowed. Moments later, they vanished into the forest canopy with a rush of wings. The nest went quiet. Flynn let out a breath, long, shaky, and dropped onto the pelts. "This is a nightmare." I sat beside him. "They're not trying to replace you." "No." He scrubbed a hand over his face. "They're trying to join you." I laced my fingers with his. "Just because they came back doesn't mean you lose me. Promise." His voice was small. Flynn was many things, steady, stubborn, devoted, but insecurity had always been buried right beneath his skin. I cupped his cheek. Always. He leaned his forehead against mine. I don't want to share you. I know. I will if I must, he added quietly, but I'll hate every moment until I understand it. That honesty broke something tender open in me. I kissed him softly. His feathers quivered. We stayed like that until the flutter of wings drifted through the entrance. Kai arrived first, carrying cleaned roots and grains. Nico landed a heartbeat later with a fresh riverfish as long as my arm. Quill came last, silent as a shadow, hands full of crushed herbs that smelled sweet and sharp. Flynn stiffened defensively, but the three didn't approach me directly. Instead, they moved around the nest in a rhythm that surprised me, cooking with practiced ease, moving around one another without clashing, doing all the tasks males did to court a female. But all of it circled one point: me. Nico filleted the fish using a carved bone blade. Kai stirred the grains. Quill sprinkled herbs with meticulous care. Flynn watched them like a hawk but didn't stop them. He simply slid his arm around my waist, holding me against him like a dare, as if saying, "She's mine. And I'm not leaving." Kai noticed and offered Flynn a small bowl without a fight. "For her comfort," he said softly. "Not to challenge you." Flynn accepted it reluctantly, but he accepted it. For a moment no one spoke. Then Nico broke the silence. "Lana, after we eat there's something important we need to show you." Quill nodded. "Something dangerous." Kai's jaw tightened. "Something that explains why we vanished." I stiffened. Flynn's grip tightened around me. And for the first time since the Skyquake, all four males looked united in the same expression. Fear. Not for themselves. For me. The wind was sharp that morning. Thin, cold, scented with the faint metallic bite that meant a storm would roll across the beast plains by dusk. Our nests swayed with it, creaking like old bones, but no one moved away from me. Kai, Nico, and Quill stood at the edge of my platform, wings half open as if shielding me from the wind, while Flynn kept me tucked firmly against his side, one hand wound in my feathers like he feared a breeze might steal me. "Where are we going?" I asked. Kai exchanged a look with the other two before answering. "To the ridge behind the western nests." Flynn stiffened. "The hollow ridge. Nothing grows there." Nico's jaw tightened. "Something does now." Quill whispered, "Something wrong." None of that sounded good. But I nodded anyway. "Lead the way." Kai stepped forward, extending his hand, not to take mine, but to clear a path through the vine curtain. It was a simple gesture, but the respect in it made something soft flutter in my chest. Flynn noticed. He pulled me closer, muttering, "Overly dramatic featherheads." "Jealous featherhead," I murmured back. He didn't deny it. We took to the air, slowly, deliberately, keeping me between all of them. Kai flew at the front, Nico and Flynn flanking me, Quill trailing behind like a silent shadow. The formation was instinctive, protective, something males used when guarding their female from aerial threats. Which made my stomach twist. What exactly were they expecting to find? The hollow ridge loomed ahead, a barren stretch of rock where wind tore at the world with knives. We landed on a precarious ledge. My talons scraped the stone as I steadied myself. Nico stepped aside so I may move forward. Quill touched my elbow lightly, almost reverently, before pulling away. Kai knelt beside a patch of disturbed soil, wings folding in tight. "Here," he said quietly. "This is why we vanished." I crouched beside him. There, pressed into the dirt, was an enormous track, larger than any sky predator I had seen. Flynn's breath hitched. "That's not a wyvern." "No," Kai murmured. "Wyverns don't leave heat behind." I placed my palm near the depression. The earth was warm. Very warm. Kai watched my expression. "He was here." "You mean," I swallowed. "The creature from yesterday?" Quill shook his head. His voice was soft, but it sliced the air clean. "Not creature." Nico finished the thought with a grim whisper. "Dragon." My lungs stilled. Dragons weren't myths, but they might as well have been. Ancient, vengeful, territorial skylords who could burn an entire clan from the sky. Flynn grabbed my wrist, pulling me back. "We're leaving." I didn't move. "Flynn. We're leaving," he repeated, feathers flaring. "You're not standing on the tracks of a dragon." Kai straightened. "We didn't bring her here to frighten her." Nico crossed his arms. We brought her because she deserves the truth. Quill added gently. He came for us. Not for her. Flynn snarled at that, wings snapping open. And bringing her here paints a target on her skull. The three marked males did not flare their wings in response. They simply lowered their heads. Submissively. To Flynn. The sight nearly made me gasp. Flynn, my stubborn one-marked kite, stood before three stronger males, and they offered him respect instead of challenge. Kai's voice was quiet. Flynn, we only want to protect her. You left her once, Flynn hissed. I didn't. Nico looked like he'd been stabbed. We didn't leave her, he said hoarsely. We were hunted. Lemuel. Quill whispered the name like a dark omen. He knows us. He remembers us. Kai's eyes hardened, shadows clouding their silver depths. We wronged him once. And now he wants repayment. My heart thudded painfully. What did you do? I asked. Silence. Even the wind hushed as though the sky itself leaned closer. Nico looked away. Quill closed his eyes. Kai exhaled slowly. Then he spoke. Years ago, during a drought season, we discovered a cave filled with preserved fruit. Enough to feed the clan for months. He paused. We didn't know it was a dragon's hoard. The blood drained from my face. Flynn swore under his breath. We only took enough to keep the young from starving, Nico said, voice tight. We thought, what dragon would miss a few baskets? He did, Quill murmured. He always knew. Kai nodded. He marked us. Only us. And when the Skyquake struck yesterday, it was his wings we felt. My knees gave out. Flynn caught me instantly, arms locking around me like unbreakable roots. Lana. Enough. We're leaving now. But I couldn't tear my eyes away from the massive track. Lemuel. Furious. And now, close. If he's hunting you, I whispered, he could come for the whole clan. Kai's jaw tightened. We know. Nico's voice cracked. We will stand between you and him. Every time. Even if it kills us. Quill lowered his head, trembling. We won't run again. The sincerity in their voices crushed something deep in my ribs. These males, stronger than any who lived in my clan, looked at me not with arrogance or entitlement, but with trembling devotion. Flynn must have felt my chest tighten because he pulled me closer, whispering fiercely in my ear. Lana, don't you dare start pitying them. I let out a thin breath. I'm not. Good, he muttered. Because I'm still furious. I rested my forehead against his. I know. Kai stepped forward, slowly, deliberately, his wings tucked tight to avoid challenging Flynn. We brought you here for one reason, Lana. I met his gaze. So you would understand what we face. And why we need you close. Always. My breath caught. Kai's voice softened. Not because you are weak, but because you ground us. Because you're the one thing Lemuel can't take from us. Nico whispered, the one thing we want to live for. Quill murmured, the one we'd burn for. Flynn's whole body tightened behind me. I could feel his heart pounding through my spine. Then he said, voice low and dangerous, none of you get to say that unless you're willing to prove it. Kai met his challenge without flinching. We will. Nico nodded. Quill bowed. The wind howled through the ridge. And far, far in the distance, so faint it could have been imagination, came the low, thunderous rumble of a roar. The kind that shook mountains. The kind that belonged to something ancient. Kai's wings snapped open. Nico immediately reached for his blades. Quill's feathers lifted like quills. Flynn pulled me behind him. And I realized the truth. The dragon wasn't coming. He was already here. The roar rippled through the mountain like a heartbeat made of thunder. Dust shook from the cliffs. Pebbles rattled down the ridge. Wind tore across our feathers in a sudden violent rush, and every instinct in my body screamed hide. Run. Submit. Instead I stepped forward. Flynn grabbed my wrist. Lana, don't. I'm not letting him hurt you, I said. Flynn looked like I'd stabbed him. He'll kill you. Kai, Nico, and Quill formed a wall behind me, wings high and tense, eyes locked on the sky as another roar echoed, closer, angrier, ancient. Kai's voice was hard. Lana, don't go in front of us. Nico's voice cracked. We can take the hit. You can't. Quill whispered desperately, please. I took a breath, the cold slicing my throat. I know, I said softly. But he's not after me. And then the sky split open. A massive shadow swept over the ridge, the air warped with heat, the light dimming beneath the span of wings so enormous they darkened the entire cliff. The dragon spiraled downward, scales gleaming like molten obsidian, every beat of his wings sending tremors through the stone. Lemuel. He landed with a sound like the world cracking open. His golden eyes locked instantly onto Kai, Nico and Quill, hatred burning in them like a living fire. The males tensed, wings flaring in instinctive defense, bodies moving subconsciously to form a protective arc around me. I stepped in front of all four of them. Flynn grabbed me again, this time both hands. Lana, don't do this. Please. I'd never heard him beg. It almost broke me. I'm not doing it for them, I whispered. I'm doing it for you. Kai's breath hitched. Nico looked stricken. Quill trembled so hard his feathers shook. Then Lemuel's voice rolled across the ridge, deep, resonant, ancient. Move aside, little eagle. I forced myself to stand taller. No. Lemuel's pupils narrowed to slits. You protect thieves? They were starving, I said, heart hammering. Our young were starving. They took only enough to save lives. They stole from me. Lemuel's breath poured out in a searing gust, heat brushing my skin like the touch of a forge. I guarded that orchard for centuries. And you lived for centuries after, I whispered. But our children would not have. The dragon stilled. Wind whipped between us, icy and merciless, yet all I felt was the heat of his gaze. Flynn's voice trembled behind me. Lana. That's enough. Stop. I shook my head slightly. If he kills them, you break. And if you break, I break. The ridge went silent. My confession hung in the air like fragile glass. Kai inhaled sharply. Nico whispered my name in disbelief. Quill lowered his head, hiding the trembling in his shoulders. The Lemuel. Lemuel's expression flickered. Why stand for them? He growled, softer this time. You gain nothing. I met his molten gaze. I gain the males I love. A sound tore out of Flynn behind me, half sob, half growl. The dragon's wings lowered slightly. And if I refuse? Lemuel asked. I stepped closer. Unarmed. Small. Entirely breakable beneath him. Then you'll have to kill me first. A sound like stone fracturing echoed behind me. Kai sinking to one knee, breath ripped from him. Nico choked on a curse. Quill pressed a hand to his chest like the world had caved in. Flynn simply whispered broken, Lana. Lemuel stared at me. Not with anger. Not with mockery. With something unfamiliar. Something almost like awe. You would die, he said slowly. For them? No. My voice cracked. I would live for them. But I will stand here until my wings burn to ash. The dragon's pupils widened. A long, rumbling exhale escaped him. Then, against every expectation, he bowed his massive head. To me. The three marked males froze. Flynn went utterly still. Lemuel's voice rolled out softly. You remind me of someone I lost. A long time ago. His chest expanded. She too stood before me unarmed. My breath stalled. The dragon lowered one wing to the ground, an offering gesture older than any clan memory. You protect them. His voice was almost confused. The weakest among you. Flynn bristled. Hey. I huffed. Flynn, not now. Lemuel rumbled in disapproval and said, Why? Because they would give everything for me, I whispered. They already do. The dragon studied me for a long, long moment. Then heat rippled outward, not threatening but warm. Protective. It curled around me like a living breeze. I will not harm your males, he said finally. A broken exhale left all four of them at once. But they owe me a debt, Lemuel continued. Kai straightened. Name it. Nico nodded fiercely. We'll pay anything. Quill swallowed. Anything. Lemuel looked past them, all of them, directly at me, and said, Let me stay by her side. Flynn made a strangled noise. Kai's wings flared. Nico stepped forward in instinctive challenge. Quill blinked like his brain had crashed. I stared at the dragon. You want to court me? Lemuel blinked. If that is the word your kind uses. Flynn half collapsed onto a rock. This is a nightmare. Kai, voice faint. He can't be serious. Nico rubbing his temples. We're dead. Quill whispering, stunned. A dragon is courting our Lana. Lemuel tilted his enormous head. I do not court lightly. But she stood for you. I envy that. His molten gaze softened. I have never been protected. My heart clenched. Something ancient and lonely flickered behind his eyes. I stepped closer, just enough to place my hand against the warm scales of his snout. He didn't move. Not an inch. Then stay, I said softly. If you choose peace, you may stay. Lemuel exhaled, a rush of warm air that wrapped around me like an embrace. Flynn groaned into his hands. This is how I die. Not by dragon fire, by stress. Kai ran a hand down his face. Nico laughed once, in short and breathless disbelief. Quill sank to his knees and murmured, Our Lana just tamed a dragon. Not tamed, loved, accepted, chosen. We walked back to the clan together, dragon included, and the moment they saw Lemuel trailing behind me, the elders didn't question a thing. They simply moved aside. Because I was no longer the quiet eagle female who kept to the mid-nests. I was the female a dragon bowed to. And from that day on, my mates and I made our home not in the mid-nests, not in the high branches, but at the very top of the highest mountain peak, where the clouds brushed our doorway and the world stretched endless beneath our feathers. Flynn carried me every morning. Kai cooked. Nico hunted. Quill prepared herbs. Lemuel warmed the nest with gentle fire. They pampered me until I wanted to scream, until I wanted to cry, until I wanted nothing except to love them back. In the clan, they never dared to wrong me again, because I lived above the beast plains now, with 4 devoted beastmen and a dragon who would burn the sky for me.